What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below, the best gaming related show here on YouTube. And I'm really excited about our episode here today. We have a ton of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. I, for one, am a massive fan of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, a great game, guys, that has really captivated a lot of people, got a lot of people to kind of talk about a potential sequel to this game. So what we're going to talk about in this first segment of this show is everything that we kind of know so far about The Legend of Zelda 2, and when can we kind of expect this game to hit our shelves and be able to play this game as the continuation of the series. So let's talk about it. In an article, guys, that was written by Tech Radar, dust off your climbing boots and paraglider, gamers. Nintendo has confirmed that a Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel is in development, with a breathtaking trailer pointing to a darker turn for the next mainline Zelda game. Nintendo dropped the bombshell at the end of its E3 2019 presentation, confirming our suspicions after the Japanese publisher appeared to be hiring for a 3D level designer in 2018. However, we've been kept in the dark regarding an official release date. But what will Breath of the Wild 2 do differently from the first game? And when will we finally get our hands on it is the big question, obviously. Breath of the Wild was a masterclass in open world game design, breathing a huge gust of fresh air into the Zelda franchise while somehow retaining everything that made the series special. Widely considered one of the best games of 2017, if not all time, it's no surprise Nintendo is working on a direct sequel. So this was a game, guys, that, you know, people were saying, like, dude, this is the greatest game ever made, and people were saying, like, it was the best game, obviously, of 2017. I think it was certainly the best game of 2017. I'm not going to go all time, because there were things that kind of bothered me about The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. Nothing, like, super significant, but I don't know if it was necessarily, if I would put it as all-time great. I mean, probably, it's certainly up there, but I don't know. I might have to revisit it again and just, you know, play it again. And then obviously the sequel, which would be the second game here in this, you know, franchise, even though they've made a number of games before this, I think it would be really interesting to see where they go moving forward. So this is the upcoming sequel, obviously, guys, to 2017's open world Zelda game. What can we play it on? It'll be Nintendo Switch. And when can you play it? 2020 at the earliest, but likely after that. Yeah, I don't think that it's going to be coming out in 2020, guys. I think it's probably going to be coming out, I would assume, let's say we get some more information here in 2020, and then 2021, we'll probably even get further information. I would say we're probably going to be playing it in 2021 or 2022, in my personal opinion. Now, as far as the release date is concerned, Nintendo hasn't shared much information other than the trailer and a few sparse comments run through below, but the trailer did close off with a line stating the Breath of the Wild sequel was in development. We certainly don't think we'll see the game being released in the coming months. Last year, leaker Sabi suggested that Breath of the Wild is due for release in 2020, but warned that Zelda release dates are historically delayed internally or publicly. And it seems they were right, as the leaker has since claimed that Breath of the Wild has been delayed likely into 2021. Breath of the Wild 2 taking longer than anticipated back during E3 2019, so it doesn't seem to be this year's holiday release, which adds more credence to the major title I was referencing on a tweet the other day. Neither are set in stone yet, so take some salt. That is pretty true, okay? While it's always worth taking rumors with a big pinch of salt, Sabi is a pretty reliable leaker. The Twitter user leaked most of the big announcements from E3 2019 before they happened, reportedly even earning himself a cease and desist order from Nintendo. So, obviously, guys, there was a Breath of the Wild trailer that came out. As far as news and rumors is concerned, Obviously, most likely it's going to be delayed to at least 2021. The development of Breath of the Wild 2 is rolling along, and updates are very thin on the ground at the moment. But according to a report by Video Games Chronicle, the game's co-developer Monolith Soft is looking to expand its team with adverts for a character modeler, concept art designer, map modeler, and scenario planner for a new Zelda game. Hiring extra hands for the development of such a highly anticipated game can't be a bad thing, and suggests that the teams are working hard on getting the game ready for whenever as yet unrevealed release date is. So, look guys, I think when you look at all of this, like there was a lot of different hirings going on. Everything's pointing to that this is a game that's probably, pretty deep in development. Now, I would say, look, this is a title that I obviously don't want Nintendo to rush out, simply because, look, I mean, you're following up one of the best games of 2017, and a lot of people are talking about it as all-time great. So, I mean, look, take your time with it, make it look incredible, and I will say, like, as far as the map is concerned, and everything that went into The Legend of Zelda, you can just tell how how detail oriented the developers were with this game, and I'm excited to see the continuation of this franchise. Now, obviously, guys, lots of hiring calls, lots of lots of different behind the scenes looks of Breath of the Wild 2. But one thing that is interesting is in an interview with Kotaku, Zelda series producer Eiji Onamu said there were originally plans for more DLC content for Breath of the Wild after the Champions Ballad and Master Trials add-ons that came in 2017. Initially, we were thinking of just DLC ideas, says Onama, but then we had a lot of ideas and we said, this is too many ideas. Let's just make one new game and start from scratch. So that's kind of interesting that they decided to not do more DLC. And I think that's okay though. They had a couple of DLC. Now let's see where they go moving forward. Now, a darker turn for the series. All we really know at this point is how little we know. But boy, are there rumors. The unexpected trailer has already sparked a huge amount of speculation, hopes, and hot takes on what the next mainline Zelda title might include. We've heard from Zelda series producer Eiji Aonuma that the game is going to have a darker tone than Breath of the Wild and will even be a little bit darker than Majora's Mask. The trailer certainly supports this, with what looks like Ganondorf's corpse being resurrected by a disembodied hand, and seemingly imagery from 2006 Twilight Princess, which saw Hyrule turned into a black shadow realm, largely in response to the far cheerier and cartoonish The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. Now, what I'll say about that is it does look darker. But the Breath of the Wild was somewhat dark as well. I mean, it kind of really reminded me of like Lord of the Rings, like a cartoony Lord of the Rings. In a lot of ways, you had like obviously the volcano, the castle. You had all these different areas, right, that you could explore in Breath of the Wild, and it got kind of like that feel. Now, this does feel even darker, which is kind of interesting. I don't know how I feel about it quite yet. I'm just obviously going to have to see, as we get further and closer to the release date of the game. So, the glowing blue hand in the trailer is the biggest clue that we'll be seeing more of the Twilight shadow people descended from Hylians who tried to take the power of the Triforce for themselves. The hand is wrapped in twisting shapes reminiscent of Twilight architecture, while the swirling Magiku reminds some of the portals that led Twilight invade Hyrule in the 2006 game. We know that Breath of the Wild's dev team originally toyed with the idea of an alien invasion, and seeing shadow creatures teleport out of the sky could well have been what they have planned this time around. Now, look, guys, if there was like a wish list for me, one of the things is I really would like to play some enemies that I don't know, kind of seem a little bit more a little bit like more evil, I guess you could say. Like a lot of the creatures that you play in Breath of the Wild don't seem that scary. Now the spiders, those spider looking robots, the robots and such were kind of like, were pretty intriguing. I really enjoyed those battles and such. But a lot of just the other creatures just weren't really just didn't really feel that exciting to me, at least. So I'd like to really see some darker creatures that come into the fray into Breath of the Wild 2. I think that would be something I think would be really smart for the developers to try out. And I think that, you know, an alien invasion, that would be kind of interesting to see what that could maybe look like. There's a lot of different ways that they could go. I also think the combat, I'd like some of the combat mechanics to get a little bit better. I noticed a lot of times, like, I'm accidentally, instead of doing one thing, I'm accidentally doing something else. So some of the combat mechanics, I think, it would be nice if those got a little bit better. And there was just a lot of times during Breath of the Wild, guys, where I would end up, like, just, there would be creatures coming out of the ground, like as you're just moving around the plains of the Breath of the Wild landscape, and there would be a lot of times that I would just disengage from battle. I wouldn't even want to fight because some of the combat at times got a little bit stale to me. So I hope that they are able to kind of, you know, change that a little bit in a way that is more, you know, acceptable to everybody. I know a lot of people really liked it. I didn't really like it that much, but it'll be interesting to see what they do in the second iteration of Breath of the Wild. Now, rumors about the Breath of the Wild sequel suggest that we could be in for a treat in the form of a new map that's not like anything we've seen from Zelda before. What's more, a couple of new job listings suggest that Nintendo is looking for people to work on designing some dungeons and hidden bosses for the game. So far, so exciting. So one of the favorite fan theories during the rounds regards the Hyrule Princess herself. She's shown in the trailer with a practical short haircut and is dressed in a manner pretty similar to Link's own adventure's gear, leading some to think she may be a playable character. Zelda's devs have seemed pretty dismissive of the idea of a female Link in the past, sadly, but we may in this game see sections playing as Zelda, or at least with her playing a more active role in the story. Look, I've got nothing against playing as a female Link. I think that would be that'd be cool to at least have a playable character, but I think that you should have the option to play as, just Link or a female Link. I think that those options would certainly be kind of cool. I don't see why that would be an issue whatsoever. Obviously, though, you want to see like a narrative and a story that's going to make sense. And if you're playing the female Link, you definitely kind of want that to kind of intertwine with what the story would be if you were playing just as male Link, right? So I think that'll be really something interesting that we'll kind of have to keep an eye on, guys. And I think that there is just so much information that is out there, but a lot of it, some of it's not confirmed, some of it is. But there's just so many, question marks with this game. I'm really excited, though, nonetheless. I think this is going to be a great game. And I think that they're giving it more time for them to kind of really just kind of give us a fresh breath of air, right? Like, no pun intended, but I think that's really what we need for the sequel to this game that was, regarded by many as an incredible masterpiece in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So it'll be interesting, guys. I'm really excited. I will definitely be keeping you guys up to speed as new information comes out. And so let me know what you guys think, though. What do you guys think about a second Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild? Let me know in the comment section below as to what it is you guys want to see in the sequel to the very successful game. And for more content and videos based around The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, stay right here with Zero TV. We've talked quite regularly about Death Stranding on the YouTube channel, guys, and something that I wanted to talk about in this segment of the show was Death Stranding, and just all in all, some of the hate behind the game and some of the absolute praise that the game has gotten in the past. I wanted to kind of talk about my feelings about Death Stranding and kind of the legacy it's going to leave now, especially because of the recent reports that Hideo Kojima and Kojima Productions are now moving into Silent Hill. They're going to be working on the Silent Hill game that all of us were waiting for, and now it's been reported that, of course, Kojima and Konami are now pretty much working together. They're all good, and Sony at the helm of it once Silent Hill's made because of the how many people, of course, want to see that game brought out, right? All we got was PT, which was playable teaser, which was the Silent Hills demo, essentially, and now people really want that game. Well, anyways, we probably won't see a Death Stranding 2 for quite some time. And I want to talk about this because I think Death Stranding deserves to be a game that is revisited. Like, I think it's a game that needs to come back at some point. Death Stranding 2 would be absolutely massive, but I want to talk about just Death Stranding as a whole right now. And I've said before on the show that Death Stranding is a walking masterpiece. Now, a lot of people say that Death Stranding was just a walking simulator. I call it a walking masterpiece because I think, guys, that a lot of people just didn't appreciate what Death Stranding was as a whole. They might have appreciated the graphics, or they might have appreciated the different, characters in the game, or the actors who were playing as those characters. And I think there were things about it that people liked, but I think there was a lot of things within the game that people just didn't like. They didn't like that you had to balance your character as you're picking up different pieces of, as you're, carrying different, packages and such, and delivering them and kind of reconnecting the world. But I'm going to say this. This is a game that is an accomplishment unlike any in recent memory. Now, the last game that I can really think of that was just an unbelievable accomplishment in gaming was actually Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is the segment that we just talked about before this one. And I think that the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, it kind of really put a spotlight on The Legend of Zelda. Even though Zelda has been a very popular game over the years, Breath of the Wild is what just almost made it completely explode as a franchise, and now everyone's talking about the second one, and everyone's excited about it. So Death Stranding, guys, I feel is something similar to this. This feeling like, not that it exploded in a different way, whereas everybody was talking about Death Stranding for a period of time. And so what I think is that I think it's a huge accomplishment what they were able to do. Because if you really think about it, when you're talking about a game kind of like Death Stranding, where you take this leap of faith, that being Sony, take this leap of faith on this single player experience. There's nothing else other than the single player experience. We're going to be talking about, hopefully the future of that, if they would add more experiences like multiplayer co-op to a Death Stranding or a Death Stranding 2. We'll talk about that here later in the show. But as far as just in recent memory, Death Stranding accomplished something really special. And that is that this walking simulation, even though I didn't really feel it was like a simulator, I felt like you are connecting the world in a way in these times, which are extremely divisive times, obviously, in our country. Now, obviously, our countries had to come together during the pandemic, but if you think about before, obviously that wasn't around when Death Stranding was released. So this concept of working together to bring the country back together, or, kind of reconnect everyone. The timing was impeccable for Death Stranding. The amount of just visuals and the character development and the world around you was just, it was spectacular, absolutely spectacular. It was a spectacle any guys that I have played in a long time. I mean, really, when you think about it, Death Stranding was a very special game, and it's close to my heart, and I'm really excited about a potential sequel, even though it'll probably be down the road. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about were DLC, potential DLCs and such for Death Stranding. There's, things that have been teased. Are they going to have more, a bunch of DLC come out, or are they just going to leave it as it is, and then they're going to move onwards to Silent Hills, that being Kojima Productions? I would love to see continuations of it. Part of me thinks that other game modes would be maybe better for Death Stranding, kind of like co-op modes and like a multiplayer mode, or like a world building mode. I've always thought that those would be something really interesting. For Death Stranding, it was kind of be reminiscent of Minecraft or something. I think that would be really interesting, like building your own world and like your own servers and such. I thought that would be really cool. But the amount of hate that Death Stranding got because of this totally different concept, I think down the road, guys, we're going to be looking at Death Stranding as one of those pivotal games. Like, I mean, we were talking in the last segment about people talking about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild being one of the greatest games of all time, not just of 2017, but all time. I think that Death Stranding down the road will be viewed as potentially just that, one of the greatest games ever made, because of how different it is and how much of a story really is entwined there. And like, I mean, you don't really get a lot of that amazing character development and voice acting skills, the game direction, the graphics and the visuals and all of that. You don't get a lot of that stuff all in one game a lot of times. You do sometimes, but Death Stranding gave you all of it. The only thing that Death Stranding didn't give you were other game modes outside of the campaign. And so that would be its one flaw. But you could say that about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, Breath of the Wild obviously had some DLCs that were added on, but no multiplayer, no co-op. So Death Stranding is right there in my opinion. I just don't think people realize it quite yet. I think people look at it as a game that was okay. Some people really liked it. Others didn't really like it at all. And so it was a very almost divisive game, but it almost like symbolizes something like our society. There was you're either really into it or you're really not. And it's like you're one way or another. You're right, you're left, you're whatever, and this game just put all of that, it put all of those different emotions and such into one game. And that was why I think this is an accomplishment unlike any in recent memory. I believe that we will one day look at Death Stranding and say, yeah, that was something very special. And hopefully Hideo will go back to Death Stranding 2, go back to the drawing board, continue moving forward with another game, Death Stranding 2, but hopefully add some other game modes. I think that would be really special and really awesome in my personal opinion. But I'd love to hear from you guys. I know you guys have given me a lot of, what you think about Death Stranding, and a lot of you don't like it. Some of you do like it, and others actually think that are with me saying that it is an absolute masterpiece. So I want to hear from you guys, though. Other games that you think have accomplished something really special. In recent memory, I say Death Stranding, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, but Death Stranding really is something special to me. I just think that it's so different. Not like, all these other games that you have coming out each year. It's very different, and I think that there's something really to be said about Death Stranding as far as its accomplishments, in recent times. But let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. And for more Death Stranding and Death Stranding 2 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. A game that I feel had a lot of potential for a multiplayer experience, not just a single player experience, but could have really done well with, co-op modes and multiplayer modes, was Jedi Fallen Order, of course, the latest Star Wars game that was made by Respawn Entertainment. And I want to talk about here why this title, for whatever reason or another, didn't have multiplayer, and could they add it in the future, or will they add a multiplayer mode in, say, the next Jedi Fallen Order game, like a sequel? So let's talk about it. In an article, guys, that was written by Nicholas Barth of Prima Games, it is no secret that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order has quickly become a hit among the video game world, as the single-player driven adventure has provided plenty of exciting moments for players from around the globe. However, there still has been some discussion surrounding the fan-favorite game having or possibly getting multiplayer features in the future. Fortunately, we have everything you need to know when it comes to the current state of multiplayer in Respawn Entertainment's newest creation. Unfortunately, for those who were wanting to tackle the game with a friend in co-op or duke it out on online battlefields, there is no form of multiplayer in the latest entry in the franchise. This particular title looks to have had the focus of being driven by an intense single-player story at the center of its development process. However, there is always a possibility that Respawn could add some multiplayer features to the game down the line in a future update. For the time being, however, this story is a solo experience at its core. Now look, here's what I'm going to say, guys. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order overall is a great experience. I think it's the best Star Wars game in years. However, having no multiplayer is just, it's baffling to me why they wouldn't make a multiplayer experience out of this, because Respawn Entertainment, the same ones who made Apex Legends, same ones who made Titanfall, why wouldn't you at least have some form of multiplayer experience? And on top of that, the campaign was great, but man, talk about buggy as hell. It was so buggy, at least for me. I played it on the Xbox One, and I can tell you guys, it's a very buggy experience. It actually takes you out of the experience, in my personal opinion, at a number of different points within the story. So with any game, if you're going to pay $60, I've always said this, having a full package is the only way that it's worth the value of a $60 price tag. You have about $4 in taxes, so it's about 64 bucks, give or take. And so an experience like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, I feel that it certainly should have a multiplayer experience and co-op experience, even if it's, kind of bare bones, not necessarily much there. It's just, it's there to kind of keep you coming back to the franchise, coming back to playing the game. I just don't see why you wouldn't do that, because obviously you had Jedi or Star Wars Battlefront and 2, which both of those, the first one was great, second one, obviously had a ton of issues. But why wouldn't you do it? It keeps people coming back to the franchise, and that's something I just don't understand why you wouldn't do it. On top of that, the bugs and such in Jedi Fallen Order are so bad, in my opinion, that you have to wonder if they were just doing a significant cash grab here to just get people to buy the game at a $60 price tag to play a single-player experience and then really not add much of anything at the end of the day. It's hard to say, guys. I mean, I want to hear from all of you. What do you guys think about that, though? Because this game looks like it would be perfect for a multiplayer experience, like absolutely perfect. Sure, it's buggy, so is that going to translate to the multiplayer? Probably, but guess what? At least it's bringing you back to the franchise. It's not taking you away and going to another game. I never understood that with a lot of these game developers and studios. Think about it. I'll give you an example. God of War, a game that, won, multiple awards, right? The year that it came out. And it was a very new direction, and people absolutely loved it. And I put this a lot on Sony and just PlayStation in general, because they have been coming out with a lot of great single-player experiences, but they're not giving people more reasons to come back to those games. After I beat God of War twice, so I beat it on a casual difficulty, and then I played it on a harder difficulty, playing it 2 times through, after you're done playing it a couple of times, it kind of gets stale. You just want to play other game modes within the game, or you move on to something else. And that's what happens a lot with games like this. And Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is no different to me. I'm not going to play the story multiple times over and over again, because number one, I mean, there's only so much that you can do and explore. And number two is it's super buggy. And if you wanted to add a number 3 to all of that, is you already know what's going to happen within the story. You might just want to explore different places that you didn't explore the first couple of times around. So all in all, guys, multiplayer experiences, co-op experiences are very important. If you ask me what I would do if I were the developers making, God of War or the God of War 2 that's going to be coming out, I would say, sure, a multiplayer experience might not be that popular with God of War, but you never know. Number 2, though, with that is God of War, just for example, you could have horde mode, similar to what they do in Gears of War, where you have multiple waves of enemies and creatures that are coming at you, and you and your friends can take on those waves. With Star Wars, you could do something, not necessarily a horde mode, but take some of the game modes that came out of, Star Wars Battlefront. Why not? It's just kind of something that I didn't really quite understand with this, because I thought that Jedi Fallen Order was actually the best Star Wars game in a while, even though it had a lot of bugs and no multiplayer and co-op experience. It was a great game, but I don't think it's worth paying the $60 price tag for it if it's not going to give you a full package. So I got my copy, I just rented my copy, and I probably won't ever get it again unless it did add some sort of multiplayer mode. But that being said, I want to hear from you guys. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Let me know in the comment section below. And for more Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order content and videos, stay right here with Zero TV. Death Stranding has a very unconventional multiplayer experience. Earlier in the show I was talking about how I really want a full-fledged out multiplayer experience in Death Stranding, because I think it's one of the, is an accomplishment, unlike any that we've had in recent times. And I think that what would really even help that argument more and more would actually be multiplayer modes and co-op modes. Now, obviously, guys, for those of you who have never played Death Stranding, Death Stranding obviously does have a multiplayer kind of concept to it where you can, if you're connected online, you can actually, if you lay down a bridge or you lay down ladders in certain areas and you leave those things there, what happens is that when other players come to certain areas on the map, you will actually see like who it was that laid that ladder, where it is, or you kind of can like help each other. It's a way in which Kojima was kind of thinking about a way that we could kind of connect in a different type of way, a way in which you're helping each other accomplish things within the Death Stranding world. And so you never see those people. Like you never see other, characters or, other players out there in the world that are like laying those ladders for you and stuff. But those are laid there at different points and you're able to, of course, interact with them and so on and so forth. And I would love to see like how they actually did that as far as, from a creative standpoint, how they did, if they just like broke it down into servers all across the United States and into Europe and all over the world. And they just separated you within your own server. So like if I were to lay a ladder for somewhere and I leave it there within the world, somebody in my server who lives near me or like kind of in my region, they'll come across my ladder at some point, and that's kind of how they do it. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but nonetheless, it's a very unconventional kind of multiplayer experience because you don't ever see anybody else, but you just see the things that they lay out for you, whether that be, ladders and, ropes and things of that nature. So anyways, how Death Stranding, even though that's kind of another way in which you could kind of argue that it's an accomplishment unlike any in recent memory because it's a different type of multiplayer experience. Here's the thing though. I want to talk about how Kojima Productions could make an incredible Death Stranding multiplayer experience. Kind of, unconventional experience is great, but how could you improve upon that moving forward? In Death Stranding 2, or if they add it with like some of the DLC, if they do come out with DLC here in the future, what would that all look like? I have said this. Even just having normal like PvP or PvE elements to your game, I think that would be absolutely awesome. I think that they could certainly do something like that with Death Stranding, like Team Deathmatch and things of that nature. Or, you have more of a more like just co-op modes where you're kind of working together to solve one particular thing, taking out like different creatures in the world, or, trying to help you, work with your friends and such to continue, connecting, the United Cities of America. Stuff like that would be really cool. I also think, guys, that if they took the Minecraft type of mentality, because it feels like Minecraft in a way Death Stranding does, where you could open up your own server and kind of build your own worlds and such. It just feels like the perfect game for that. You go around your server or in the world, you're collecting materials, and then you're building your own world and your own cities and things of that nature. I think it could be an incredible transcendent type of game where it's more like realistic in a way where you're like, or it feels more real. Like Minecraft is very cartoony. This is more of a kind of dark and realistic kind of take on something like that. So, and we haven't really seen anything like that before. So I feel like you could do something like that where you have your own servers and you're able to collect materials and build your own worlds and things like of that nature. A multiplayer experience would continue building upon what they started with a single player experience in Death Stranding. However, it sounds like as of recently that Kojima Productions and Konami are now working together to make Silent Hills actually a reality after all these years, which is exciting. Don't get me wrong, I'm very excited about it, but I'm just wondering where that leaves Death Stranding. Like, are we going to get DLC? Are we going to be able to have a multiplayer experience at some point? Are we going to get Death Stranding 2 anytime in the near future? It doesn't seem like we're going to be getting a multiplayer experience very soon, or even DLC. And Death Stranding 2 would maybe be the one thing that would actually help with that. It's hard to say. Kojima doesn't seem like that kind of guy who really focuses on multiplayer experiences or really cares to do that. But I feel like, why not do it? I mean, he's never really done it in the past, so why not give it a shot and try it with something like Death Stranding? At least a portion of your game. It brings people back to the game. As I keep saying, guys, multiplayer experiences bring you back to the franchise, back to playing the game. Because after playing the campaign so many times, a couple of times through, you try things a little bit differently each playthrough, but at the same time, it gets stale after a while. Players will go on to other games and such, and that's why I just don't understand why Sony is doing that. Sure, they're selling a lot, but it feels like just a real quick money grab mentality and tactics where you're just going to sell these products with a single player experience, and then those people are going to, drop it after that one playthrough or two playthroughs. Some people didn't even get through even a portion of Death Stranding because they didn't like how it was a walking simulator. So all I'm saying is multiplayer experiences bring people back to the franchise. Co-op modes, those things bring people back to the franchise. Having new ways in which you can connect with the franchise. Think of like Halo, think of Gears of War. These games on Xbox that are exclusives that have multiple reasons for people to come back to those franchises. Horde mode in Gears, multiplayer in Gears, Forge mode in Halo, multiplayer in Halo. Also has full-fledged campaign modes. Sure, not open world, but semi-open world. And still selling a lot of copies. And I think that Sony is probably going to start realizing this at some point or another, especially the more exclusives that Xbox brings out. It's just my personal opinion, guys, but I think that Death Stranding deserves to have a multiplayer experience, unlike, the unconventional multiplayer that it already has, but something more than just that, in my opinion, because it's very bare bones and it's very innovative, of course, but I feel like this is a franchise and a game that deserves a lot more than just that. That's just my opinion, though, guys, and I'd love to hear from all of you in the comment section below. What do you guys think? If you could choose, would you want to have multiplayer modes, campaign obviously, as well as, co-op modes in a game, or are you okay with just buying a campaign for $60 and nothing else, or a multiplayer for $60 and nothing else? What do you guys think about it? Let me know in the comment section below, and for more Death Stranding and Death Stranding 2 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.